I found out my neighbor changed his Wi-Fi name to 1744. Your wife is cheating on you. 1744 is my house number. At first, I thought it was just a joke or some kind of provocation. But the next day, he came over to talk to me. He said that every morning, right after I left for work, a black Nissan parked a few houses down. The driver would get out, walk around the side of my house, and go in through the back. I wanted to believe it was a lie, but the way he described everything, it was impossible to ignore. Still, when I tried to figure out what was really going on, I realized nothing was what it seemed. The neighbor wasn't just some nosy guy, and my wife's affair was only the beginning of something much bigger. When I first saw the Wi-Fi name, 1744, your wife is cheating on you, I laughed. I thought maybe one of the neighbors was messing around. My house number is 1744, and the guy across the street, Jeff, had a weird sense of humor. He once renamed his Wi-Fi to FBI surveillance van just to freak out the teenagers next door. But this time, it felt different. The name wasn't funny. It felt targeted. That night, I asked my wife, Emily, if she'd noticed anything strange. She looked up from her phone, confused, and said no. Her face didn't change, not even a blink. I wanted to believe her. We'd been married 9 years. I trusted her more than anyone. The next morning, as I was leaving for work, Jeff waved me over. He had that serious look, like someone who'd rehearsed what he was about to say. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. Every morning after you leave, a car parks a few houses down, black Nissan. Same one every day. The driver walks around your house and goes in through the back gate. I just stared at him. You sure it's my house? Positive, he said. I even took a picture. He showed me a blurry phone photo, but I recognized the backyard fence. My backyard fence. All day at work, I couldn't focus. Every time my phone buzzed, I thought it was going to be a message from Jeff with another photo. I didn't tell Emily. I wanted to see for myself. That night, I left my car down the block and walked home. The house lights were on. Inside, I could hear the faint sound of music, Emily's playlist. I crept to the back fence and waited. At 7:42 p.m., a black Nissan turned onto the street. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. The car slowed near my house, headlights off. A man got out. Tall, dark jacket, baseball cap. He went straight to the gate and slipped inside like he'd done it 100 times. I was frozen. I couldn't move. Then I saw Emily open the door. She didn't look surprised. She didn't even check if anyone was around. She just let him in. I don't remember how long I stood there. My hands were shaking. I thought about walking in, about confronting them both right there, but something about the way she looked at him stopped me. It wasn't what I expected. She looked scared, not guilty, not romantic, scared. That night, I didn't go inside. I drove to a motel on the edge of town and didn't sleep at all. In the morning, I went back home like nothing happened. Emily was making breakfast. She smiled at me and asked if I'd slept well. I said yes. But I noticed something I hadn't seen before, a faint bruise on her wrist. And suddenly, I wasn't sure who the real threat was anymore. That bruise on Emily's wrist wouldn't leave my head. It wasn't the kind of mark you get from bumping into something. It looked like someone had grabbed her too hard, fingers still visible. But I didn't say anything. I just watched her move around the kitchen, acting like everything was fine. When she reached for a mug, her sleeve slid up again, and I caught another one, higher up her arm. She noticed me looking and quickly pulled her sleeve down. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, she said too quickly. Why wouldn't it be? I nodded, pretending to accept it, but my stomach twisted, the way she avoided my eyes. It wasn't guilt anymore, it was fear. That night, I messaged Jeff. That guy, the one in the black Nissan, did you get his plate? He replied almost immediately, yeah. I've got a few pictures. Want me to send them? When I opened the photo, I froze. The license plate was partially visible, but the car itself was familiar, too familiar. I'd seen it once before, parked near my office. It belonged to a man named Ryan Holt. He used to work with Emily. 2 years ago, she mentioned him a few times. He's just a co-worker, she said. Kinda intense, but harmless. Then one day, she stopped talking about him completely. I never asked why. Now it all came flooding back. The next morning, I left for work like usual. But instead of driving to the office, I parked down the street and waited. I watched the clock. At 8:05 a.m., right on schedule, the black Nissan showed up, but something was off. The guy didn't park near the house this time. He parked in the alley closer to Jeff's backyard. Then, to my surprise, Jeff walked up to the car. They talked. for a long time. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw Jeff hand him something, a small envelope. The guy nodded, got back in his car, and drove off. What the hell was going on? That night, I confronted Jeff. I didn't tell him I'd seen him with the man. I just asked why he was so sure about what he'd told me. His answers were vague, too rehearsed. He said he just wanted to help a neighbor. Then he said something strange. Maybe you should check your security cameras. You'll see more than you think. I told him I didn't have cameras, and he knew that. He just smiled. When I got home, I couldn't shake his words. So I started looking. Every corner, every angle of the house, and behind the old shed I found it. A small black camera, half hidden under the eaves. Someone had been watching us. I pulled it down and plugged it into my laptop. The footage started automatically. At first it was normal, Emily gardening, me mowing the lawn, but then I saw him. The man from the black Nissan, not sneaking around, not breaking in. He was standing with Emily, handing her something, an envelope, just like the one Jeff gave him earlier, and her face wasn't scared this time. She looked furious. She pointed toward Jeff's house. The man turned his head and nodded. That's when I realized I'd been played. Whatever was going on between Jeff, Emily, and this Ryan guy, it wasn't an affair. It was something else, something I wasn't supposed to see. And Jeff's warning wasn't a warning at all. It was bait. That night, I didn't sleep. I replayed the footage over and over until the battery on my laptop died. Every time I saw Emily's expression, it hit me differently. She wasn't scared of the man. She was scared for something, or someone. By morning, I decided to act like nothing had changed. Emily was in the kitchen again, scrolling through her phone, hair still messy from sleep. I kissed her on the head and said I'd be home late from work. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Instead of going to the office, I drove to Jeff's house. His truck was gone, so I checked around. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but my gut told me the camera behind my shed wasn't the only one. It took me 15 minutes to find another one, hidden behind the fence between our yards, aimed directly at our back door. That was enough. When Jeff got home that afternoon, I was waiting for him in his driveway. He looked surprised, but not scared, almost like he'd been expecting me. "You've been recording my house," I said. He didn't deny it. He just shrugged. "You should be thanking me. I've been keeping you safe." "Safe from what?" He looked around, lowering his voice. "From her. From whoever she's working with." It sounded insane. I almost laughed, but then I remembered the footage, the envelope, the way Emily pointed at his house. "What are you talking about?" I asked. He leaned in. "You think that guy's her boyfriend? He's not. He's a fixer. Works for someone you don't want to know. Emily's in deep, man. I've been watching her for months." I felt my stomach twist. "You're saying my wife's a criminal?" He looked me straight in the eye. "I'm saying she's being used, and now they're using you too." I wanted to walk away, but something about his tone froze me. He wasn't gloating. He looked tired, paranoid, desperate to be believed. "Why you?" I asked. "Why are you involved?" He hesitated, then sighed. "Because I used to work for the same people." That was the first time I felt real fear. I left without another word. When I got home, Emily was waiting at the door. "Where were you?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Just talking to Jeff," I said carefully. Her face went pale. "What did he tell you?" I didn't answer. That's when I noticed her phone in her hand, and the reflection of the live camera app on the screen. She was watching the backyard feed in real time. "Emily," I said slowly, "how long have there been cameras on our property?" She looked cornered. "You don't understand. It's not what you think." "Then explain it." She shut her eyes for a second. When she opened them, she was trembling. "They made me do it. I didn't have a choice. If I didn't cooperate, they said they'd come after you." My pulse spiked. "Who are they?" She didn't answer right away. She just glanced at the window, then back at me. "You need to trust me, okay? Tonight, when you leave for work, don't go. Stay hidden. Watch what happens." Then she whispered, almost too quietly to hear, "And whatever you see, don't stop it." That was the moment I realized Jeff wasn't the only one watching. We were all being watched. That whole day, I couldn't focus on anything. Every sound made me jump. Every text notification felt like a warning. Emily acted normal, but I could tell she was on edge. She kept checking the windows, locking her phone whenever I got close. At 7:30 p.m., I parked my car down the street like always, but instead of leaving for work, I circled back on foot. I found a spot behind the shed where I could see the back of the house. At exactly 8 the black Nissan pulled up again. My chest tightened. The driver got out, Ryan Holt, the same guy from the videos. He didn't sneak this time. He walked straight to the back door, confident, like he owned the place. Emily opened it immediately. Her face looked tense but controlled. She let him in, then closed the door behind them. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. Then I noticed movement, someone else stepping out of Jeff's yard. Jeff. He wasn't looking at my house this time. He was looking at the Nissan. He opened the driver's side door and started searching through it. He found something, pulled it out, a phone, I think, and started scrolling. Then suddenly, Emily's voice echoed from inside the house. I couldn't hear the words, but I could tell she was shouting. Jeff froze. Seconds later, the back door slammed open. Emily came out, her face pale, shaking. Ryan followed her, holding a small black case. They stopped when they saw Jeff near the car. Emily's voice cracked. "What are you doing?" Jeff didn't answer. He just pointed at Ryan. "You shouldn't have brought him here." Ryan smirked. "Still playing the neighborhood hero, huh?" I stayed hidden, but every instinct screamed at me to run out there. Jeff stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "You're not leaving with that case." Ryan shook his head. "You think you can stop me?" Before I could move, Ryan shoved Emily aside and swung at Jeff. They struggled near the fence, the case hitting the ground with a heavy thud. Emily ran to grab it, but Jeff blocked her path. "Don't!" he yelled. "You don't even know what's in there." Then, headlights flashed from the street. A black SUV rolled up quietly, no plates. 2 men got out, both wearing dark clothes. They didn't yell. They didn't ask questions. They just started walking toward the backyard. That's when Emily screamed, "They found us!" Jeff turned to me. I hadn't even realized I'd stepped out from behind the shed. His eyes met mine, wide and urgent. "Take her and go." I grabbed Emily by the arm and pulled her toward the alley. Behind us, I heard shouting, then a loud crash. We ran until my lungs burned. We didn't stop until we reached the next block, hiding behind a parked truck. Emily was shaking so badly she couldn't speak. Finally, she whispered, "They weren't supposed to come tonight. Who are they, Emily?" I asked, breathless. She hesitated. "They work for the same people Jeff used to, the ones who made me install the cameras. They think I have something that belongs to them. The case?" She nodded. "It's not money. It's information. Files. Names." My mind raced. Jeff said he was trying to protect us. He was. But now it's too late. From down the street, we heard engines starting. The SUV and the Nissan were gone. Jeff's house was dark. Completely dark. Emily looked at me, her voice trembling. "We have to disappear before they realize we're not there." I stared back at the house that used to feel safe, and for the first time I knew. Nothing about my life was real anymore. We didn't pack bags. We didn't even grab our phones. Emily said the less we carried, the harder we'd be to track. We left through the alley, cut across 2 blocks, and walked until the streets got quieter and emptier. She led us to an old gas station near the highway. The cashier barely looked up when she asked for the keys to the restroom. Inside, she opened the black case. It wasn't money or drugs. It was a stack of printed documents, a flash drive, and 2 ID cards with names I didn't recognize. "What is this?" I whispered. She hesitated. "Everything I know about the people who control Ryan and Jeff." "Who are they?" Emily rubbed her temples, like she was trying to keep herself from falling apart. "They're part of a private intelligence group, technically legal, at least on paper. They monitor people for companies, politicians, anyone who pays. Jeff worked for them first. Ryan was one of their enforcers. I was supposed to be a consultant." I stared at her. "Consultant for what?" "Data analytics," she said. "I had access to private client databases, lists of targets, surveillance routines, payment records. When I realized what they were actually doing, I tried to walk away. That's when they started watching us. It was too much to process. So the cameras, the Wi-Fi name, everything Jeff said was them trying to scare me back into silence," she said. "But Jeff turned against them. He thought he could expose the operation, use me as leverage. Ryan found out and started tailing me. I sat on the cold tile, head spinning. Then why did Jeff say you were being used?" She looked at me with tired eyes. "Because I was. He thought if he made you suspicious of me, you'd stay away and stay safe." I didn't know what to say. For the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt small, powerless. Emily packed the documents back into the case and stood up. "We can't go home. They'll be watching for us. We need to find Jeff. Why? He could be dead. She shook her head. If he was, they wouldn't have left the house standing. We took a bus heading west, sitting apart like strangers. Every time someone looked our way, Emily tensed. I could see the bruises on her wrist again. Fresh ones. By the time we got to a small town 2 hours away, it was past midnight. We found a cheap motel under a different name. Emily disappeared into the bathroom while I sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through the flash drive on my laptop. There were hundreds of files, surveillance photos, names, bank transfers, even encrypted emails between Jeff, Ryan, and someone labeled DH, probably their handler. Then I found something that made my blood run cold, a folder titled 1744 Subject Asset. I opened it. Inside were time-stamped videos of me, leaving for work, coming home, grocery runs, even a photo of me asleep on the couch. Emily came out of the bathroom just as I turned the screen toward her. Why is there a file on me? I demanded. Her face went white. You weren't supposed to see that. Answer me, Emily. She sat beside me slowly. Because you were part of the plan from the start. They put us together. They wanted someone ordinary, someone believable. You were never supposed to know. My whole body went cold. You mean our marriage? No, she said, her voice breaking. It's real now. But in the beginning, I was assigned to you. I couldn't breathe. Everything I'd ever known about my life, my home, my marriage, it was all part of someone else's plan. And now we were both running from the same people who'd built it. I didn't say a word for a long time. I just sat there staring at the screen, watching my own life play out in silent clips. Every morning coffee, every text, every time I kissed her goodbye. Emily kept whispering my name, but I couldn't look at her. When did it start? I finally asked. She hesitated. 10 years ago, before we got married. I turned to her slowly. You mean before we even met? She nodded. They picked you before I ever spoke to you. I felt sick. Why me? You worked for Brightwell Logistics, she said. That company was one of their biggest clients. They thought you'd eventually have access to the financial data they wanted, but you never did. After a while, they just kept watching anyway. I laughed once, bitterly. So, I was their failed project? Her eyes filled with tears. No, you were the only thing I did right. I wanted to hate her for saying that, but something in her face, the exhaustion, the regret, kept me quiet. She wasn't the same woman I married, but she wasn't the monster I'd imagined either. She was caught in something that had swallowed both of us whole. When the sun started coming up, I opened the flash drive again. I wanted answers. Something that made sense. I found one last file buried deep under layers of folders. It was labeled Redline Protocol Active. Inside was a list of addresses and dates, all recent. Mine was at the top. Jeff's address was the second, and below his, I saw one more entry. Ryan Holt. Terminated. Terminated? I said out loud. Emily leaned over my shoulder. Her voice dropped. That means he's dead. I looked at her. You said they came for us last night. They came for the case, she said quietly. But if Ryan's name is on that list, it means Jeff might still be alive. For now. She stood up and started pacing. We have to find him before they do. Where do we even start? She pulled out one of the ID cards from the case and handed it to me. This woman, she said. Diane Harper. She used to run communications for them. She left 3 years ago. Changed her name, moved somewhere near the state border. Jeff told me once that if anything went wrong, she'd know what to do. We left the motel before anyone else was awake. Emily found a used car lot that didn't ask for IDs, paid cash for a beat-up gray sedan, and told me to drive. Hours later, we crossed into another county. The road signs looked unfamiliar, but Emily seemed to know where she was going. Finally, she told me to pull over near an abandoned diner. She lives a few miles down that road, Emily said. But before we go... She reached into her pocket and handed me a small metal key. What's this? The backup drive, she said. If anything happens to me, you take this and give it to Diane. Tell her it's still active. Emily, stop. She met my eyes. You need to understand. Once we go there, there's no turning back. Before I could respond, headlights appeared behind us. 2 vehicles moving fast. Emily's face drained of color. They found us. I slammed the car into gear and floored it. The tires screeched as we sped down the narrow road, gravel spraying behind us. The cars followed, closing in fast. Emily was breathing hard, her hand gripping the dash. They won't stop, she said. They'll take you too now. Then tell me what's on that drive, Emily, I shouted. Her voice was shaking. Proof that the Redline Protocol isn't just surveillance, it's elimination. Everyone on that list is marked to disappear, and I'm at the top, she nodded once, because you were supposed to find out, and now you did. The rearview mirror filled with headlights. I could see a man leaning out the window of the lead car, pointing something metallic, not a gun, but some kind of tracking device. Hold on, I said, turning sharply onto a dirt road. The car bounced violently. We hit a pothole, and the case slid onto the floor, popping open. The papers scattered, and something fell out. A small, black tracking chip, blinking red. They hadn't found us. We'd been carrying them with us the entire time. The blinking red light felt louder than the sound of the engine. Emily saw it the same time I did. She swore under her breath, grabbed the chip, and tried to crush it in her hand. But it was metal, not plastic. "Throw it out the window," I yelled. She did. It bounced off the road and vanished into the trees, but the damage was done. They already had our location. A second later, the headlights behind us split apart. One car stayed on the road. The other veered into the dirt, trying to cut us off. "Emily!" I shouted. "Which way? Left!" I turned hard. The tires slid, gravel spraying everywhere. We sped through a narrow path between trees until the road disappeared entirely. The car fishtailed, but somehow I kept control. The other cars didn't follow. At least not immediately. When we finally stopped, both of us were shaking. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight they hurt. Emily looked out the back window, breathing fast. "We need to ditch the car." "Where the hell are we supposed to go?" She pointed through the trees. In the distance, barely visible, was an old farmhouse with a single light on. "That's her," Emily said. "Diane." We ran the rest of the way on foot. The air smelled like dust and rain. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. When we reached the porch, Emily knocked 3 times, paused, then twice more, like some kind of code. After a few seconds, the door opened a crack. A woman in her 50s stood there, wearing an oversized flannel shirt and holding a small revolver. "Emily," she said flatly, "you weren't supposed to come here." "I didn't have a choice," Emily said. "They activated Redline." The woman's eyes flicked to me. "And he's the asset?" "Not anymore," Emily said. "They're going after both of us." Diane lowered the gun but didn't look relieved. "Get inside. Now." The farmhouse looked normal at first. Old furniture, stacks of papers, a faint smell of oil and coffee. But in the corner of the living room, I saw 3 computer monitors running code I couldn't even read. Emily handed her the flash drive and the metal key. "Everything's here." Diane plugged it into one of the machines. Within seconds, the screen filled with red text and warning symbols. She frowned. "You brought the live node?" "What's that mean?" I asked. Diane ignored me. "If this is still broadcasting, they can trace it anywhere within 100 miles. Emily froze. "I thought I disabled it. You thought wrong." Diane grabbed a small device from her desk, a jammer maybe, and switched it on. "We have 15 minutes, maybe less, before they triangulate this place. Can you delete it?" Emily asked. "I can do better," Diane said, typing fast. "I can leak it." Emily's eyes widened. "You can't. They'll kill us. They'll kill you anyway," Diane said. "At least this way it's public. Once the data's out, Redline's finished." I watched the two of them argue while the screens flickered. My head was spinning. I didn't understand half of what they were saying, but I knew one thing. Whatever was on that drive, it was big enough to get people killed. Suddenly, one of the monitors beeped. A new message appeared. "Connection detected. Source, 1744. Diane's face went pale. "They're in the system." Before we could react, headlights flared outside the window. Multiple vehicles. Emily grabbed my arm. "We need to leave." Diane didn't stop typing. "You go. I'll finish this. You'll die if you stay," Emily said. Diane looked at her with a strange calm. "I already died once when I left that world. Go." We ran out the back door just as engines roared down the driveway. I turned once, saw men in tactical gear rushing toward the porch, and then we were running through the fields, the sound of shouting and breaking glass echoing behind us. A flash of light exploded from the house, then another. Emily pulled me down to the ground, covering her head. The blast knocked the wind out of me. When I looked up again, the farmhouse was on fire. No movement, no Diane. Emily's voice cracked. She must have triggered the leak. I stared at the burning house. "Then what happens now?" She turned toward me, her face illuminated by the flames. "Now the whole world's going to know what Redline is." Far in the distance, I could already hear sirens. But behind the sirens, faint and steady, another sound. Helicopters. Emily looked at me, eyes full of fear. They're not coming to help us. They're coming to erase us. We didn't stop running until the flames were just a faint orange glow behind us. My legs were shaking, lungs on fire, but Emily kept going. She didn't even look back once. When we finally reached the edge of the fields, there was an old barn half collapsed. We slipped inside and hid behind a pile of broken crates. I could still hear the helicopters circling somewhere in the distance. Emily sat down hard, her whole body trembling. If Diane uploaded the files, they'll try to kill the signal before it spreads. That gives us maybe an hour. I tried to catch my breath. And after that? She looked at me. After that, they'll come for everyone on that list. They'll try to clean it up. I didn't even have words anymore. My life had turned into something I barely recognized. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small folded piece of paper, smudged with dirt. I took this from Diane's desk, she said. It's a list of emergency contact codes. If she was right, someone outside the network might still be watching them. A journalist, a whistleblower, I don't know. You think we can trust them? She gave a dry laugh. We don't have a choice. I looked at the paper. There were coordinates, a name, M. Leary, and a time, 06:45 a.m. That's less than 2 hours from now, I said. She nodded. Then we run. We left the barn while it was still dark. The air smelled like smoke from the fire. Every time I thought I heard a car, we ducked into the trees. Emily moved fast like she'd done this before. Maybe she had. When the sky started turning gray, we reached an empty service station near the highway. A lone payphone hung on the wall, the kind you never see anymore. Emily picked it up and started dialing one of the numbers from the list. It rang once, twice, then someone answered. Leary? Emily's voice was low. Diane's gone. Protocol's live. There was a pause. Then a sigh. You shouldn't have called this line. She told me to. Where are you? Emily hesitated, looking at me. I shook my head. She said, near Route 17, eastbound. I'll find you, the voice said. Then the line went dead. She hung up and leaned against the wall. If he's still on our side, we might have a chance. And if he's not... She looked at me quietly. Then this ends tonight. For a moment, it felt like the world slowed down. The parking lot was empty, the air still. Then, in the reflection of the payphone glass, I saw movement. A black SUV pulling up behind us. Emily, I whispered. She turned. Her eyes widened. The passenger door opened and a man stepped out. Clean-cut, mid-40s, calm. No gun drawn. He raised his hands slightly, as if to show he wasn't a threat. I'm Leary, he said. Diane sent me before the leak. Emily didn't move. Prove it. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small flash drive identical to ours, except his was burned at the edges. Redline burned this 3 years ago, he said. She told me if a woman named Emily showed up with another drive, it meant it wasn't over. I didn't trust him, but Emily lowered her guard. Then you know what's coming. He nodded. I also know you can't run anymore. Once that data goes public, they'll scrub every loose end. That includes you. What do you want from us? I asked. I want you to help me finish it, he said. Diane didn't get everything out. The live node's still transmitting from one source, your house, 1744. I felt the ground drop under me. Our house? It burned. He shook his head. No, they didn't destroy it. They turned it into a hub. Every file you've seen, every leak, routes through that address now. That's why they labeled you Subject 1744. It's not just surveillance. It's the core of the system. Emily's voice was barely a whisper. You're saying they're using our home as the center of Redline? Yes, Leary said. And if we don't shut it down before sunrise, the protocol resets. Everyone on that list disappears permanently. I looked at Emily. Her face said everything. Exhaustion, fear, but also something else. Resolve. She turned back to Leary. Then we go back. He nodded once. You'll have one shot. If they trace us, there's no second try. Emily looked at me. You don't have to come. I almost laughed. You dragged me into this, Emily. I'm seeing it through. Leary opened the back of the SUV. Inside was a laptop, wires, and a small black device blinking slowly, like a heart monitor. Once we're in range of the signal, he said, we cut the core and kill the node. And what happens if we fail? I asked. He looked at me, calm but certain. Then 1744 stops existing, and so do you. The drive back to our street felt endless. Every mile looked like a memory turned upside down. Places that used to mean something now felt like parts of a trap. I kept waiting for the SUVs to appear in the mirror again, but the road behind us stayed empty. Leary sat in the back seat with his laptop open, cables running from it to a black transmitter on the floor. Emily watched the GPS map glowing faintly on the dashboard. Neither of them spoke much. When we got close, I realized the whole neighborhood had been evacuated. Every house dark. No cars parked, no sounds. Just rows of empty driveways and that strange feeling of something waiting. Leary tapped a key. Signal strength just spiked. We're near the hub. We turned onto our street. The numbers on the mailboxes passed one by one until I saw it. 1744. It was still standing. Half burned from the night they attacked Jeff's place, but not destroyed. The front door was gone. The windows blackened. A single faint light flickered from inside like a heartbeat. Emily reached for the door handle. We go together. Leary nodded and grabbed the equipment. Once I link to the node, I'll need about 90 seconds. You just keep them off me. I swallowed hard. Them? He looked at me. They always send cleanup. We stepped out. The air smelled like smoke and ozone, and every step toward the house felt heavier. Inside, the walls were scorched, furniture overturned, and yet the living room still had our old family photos on the shelf. My face. Emily's, smiling. Like nothing had happened. Leary set the laptop on the floor near the fireplace and connected a cable to something behind the wall. There it is, he said. They built the transmitter into your wiring. Smart. Power runs straight through it. He started typing fast. The device began to hum, lights flickering from green to red. Then Emily froze. Someone's here. I turned. From the hallway, shadows moved. 3 figures in tactical gear, faceless behind black visors. Stay behind me! I shouted. Leary didn't stop typing. Just hold them for a minute. Emily grabbed a metal rod from the floor, part of the broken lamp, and took a step forward. The first agent raised a weapon, but before he could fire, the lights in the house flickered violently. Leary yelled, EMP pulse in 10 seconds! Wait! What? I shouted. Duck! The blast hit like thunder. Every light, every phone, every piece of tech went dead in an instant. The agents stumbled, their visors sparking before shutting off completely. When the noise faded, Leary was breathing hard, staring at his screen. We're in, he said. The Redline server's open. Emily crouched next to him. Delete it. He shook his head. Can't. It's live across multiple mirrors. Only way to stop it is a full overload. Meaning? I asked. He looked up. We burn everything connected to it. This house included. Emily didn't hesitate. Do it. He started the sequence. On the screen, strings of code scrolled faster and faster, lines of text flashing, erase command accepted. Then the screen froze. Another message appeared. Override. DH access detected. Emily's voice cracked. Diane? Leary frowned. Impossible. She's gone. But the system kept typing on its own. Protocol failsafe. Manual execution required. He looked at me. It's asking for a biometric confirmation, the original asset. I realized what that meant before he said it. Me. Leary nodded. It has to recognize your signature. Without you, it'll restart the network. Emily grabbed my arm. If you do this, it might kill you too. I looked around the house, our house, and felt the weight of every lie, every moment that led here. Then let's end it right. Leary positioned the scanner. Place your hand here and hold it until the screen goes black. I did. The pad burned hot against my palm, then hotter, until it felt like fire. I could hear the systems whirring, sparks jumping from the wires. Emily was shouting something, but all I could see was the screen, line after line disappearing until there was nothing left. Then everything went silent. The hum stopped. The red lights died. The smell of burned plastic filled the room. Leary stared at the blank screen. It's done, he said quietly. Redline's gone. Emily turned to me, tears in her eyes. You did it. Before I could answer, the walls shook. A low rumble rolled through the floor. Then the entire house lit up from the inside. Leary shouted, Run! We barely made it out before the explosion hit. The blast threw us onto the street. When I looked back, 1744 was engulfed in flames, for real this time. Emily crawled toward me, coughing. Are you okay? I think so, she smiled weakly. Then it's over. Leary pulled himself up, watching the house burn. Maybe. But if Diane was really still in their system, he didn't finish the sentence, because at that exact moment, my phone, the one I thought was dead, buzzed once in my pocket. A single notification appeared on the cracked screen. New network detected. 1745. Connection restored. For a long second, none of us moved. The message on the cracked screen kept pulsing. 1745. Connection restored. Leary was the first to speak. It jumped hosts, he said quietly. It's looking for a new address. Emily grabbed my phone, fingers shaking. It's picking the next house, the next subject. Leary nodded. That's how it survives. Burn one node, it migrates to the next closest signal. The three of us stood in the middle of the street, watching what was left of 1744 collapse. Fire trucks were somewhere in the distance, but no sirens were moving closer. It felt like the world was pretending this place didn't exist anymore. Emily looked up and whispered, "Who lives at 1745? I turned. The house next door was dark, blinds drawn, a for sale sign still in the yard. Nobody, I said. Leary shook his head. Then it's waiting for someone new to move in. He reached into his jacket and handed me a small drive. This is a dead key. It keeps anything within 100 feet off grid. Use it. Don't stay in one place for too long. What about you? I asked. He looked back at the flames. I'll try to trace where it jumped. If I can't find it, at least I can make noise. Keep them busy. Emily caught his arm. You don't think this will ever stop, do you? Leary gave a tired half smile. Not while people keep building things they don't understand. Then he started walking toward his SUV. When he was gone, Emily and I just stood there, smoke curling into the sky. I didn't know what we were supposed to do next. Everything we owned was gone. Every record of who we were burned with that house. Finally, she said, "Let's go." We walked until sunrise, past the police barricades, past the flashing lights that pretended to mean safety. On the edge of town, she stopped and looked back one last time. You think they'll ever stop watching? She asked. I shook my head. I think they'll just pick someone else. She slid her hand into mine. For the first time in days, she didn't look scared, just tired, like she'd already accepted what came next. We caught a bus heading west. No luggage, no IDs, just the clothes on our backs. I turned my phone off, wrapped it in foil, and tossed it into a trash bin at the station. For a few hours, it was quiet. No messages, no cameras, no humming machines in the background, just road and silence. But somewhere around noon, a man in the seat across from us pulled out his phone, searching for a signal. His Wi-Fi list popped up on the screen for a second before he turned it away. I caught a glimpse of one name. 1745. You're being watched. Emily saw it too. Her hand tightened around mine. Neither of us said anything. We just kept staring out the window as the bus rolled farther into the horizon, pretending for a little while longer that we'd actually escaped.